Pelvimetry is one of the skills that's particularly hard to learn from a textbook, and to be honest, even harder to learn in a distance education program. But thanks to the limitless possibilities of modern technology, I am able to come to you today with model pelvis in hand to help you navigate the human pelvis. If you don't already have a pelvic model, I highly recommend getting one. It will save you an immense amount of time as you try to master both the concepts of clinical pelvimetry as well as the mechanisms of labor. Before we get started, I just wanted to share a few thoughts about clinical pelvimetry. Pelvimetry is obviously a skill that's really important for midwives to master, but I also really wanted to encourage each of you to spend some time thinking about the role that it's going to play in your practice. As a consequence of my youth, I'm too young to have lived through the era of X-ray pelvimetry, but I've certainly heard the stories, and I'm sure many of you have too, of, laboring women having an X-ray while in labor, being told their pelvis was too small or their baby's head too large and that they would need a C-section, only to deliver in the hallway on the way back up to labor and delivery. So I think to some degree, we all have an understanding that there's something inherently wrong with simply judging dimensions of somebody's pelvis. And I think that affects us all uniquely. So I really do encourage each of you to spend some time thinking about what it means for you. And I'd also just like to share with you the fact that despite my having those initial feelings as a student, I've come to a place in my practice where my favorite part of a new OB exam is doing that pelvic exam, because it's the time when you can really reassure women of the normalcy of their pelvis. And it's a rare day that you feel something abnormal. So you do get familiar with normal. The diameters of the pelvis that I'd like to review with you today are those that are clinically relevant when performing clinical pelvimetry on a client. And those include the diagonal conjugate, the length and curvature of the sacrum, the prominence and flexibility of the coccyx, the side walls, whether they be straight, convergent, or divergent, the ischial spines, whether they be blunt or prominent, the sacrosciatic notch, the subpubic angle, and the bituberous diameter. So let's get started. The first measurement that I obtain after doing a bimanual examination is the diagonal conjugate, which would be the measurement from the inferior margin of the pubic symphysis to the sacro-lumbar junction. And this is a measurement that you don't often reach. It's usually a pretty long measurement in a normal gynecoid or adequate pelvis. After you assess this distance, then you sweep your hands down the sacrum and feel for its curvature. And often you lose contact with it if you ever felt it up here to begin with, because it becomes a deeper space. And then as you go down just a little bit further, you feel for the coccyx and note its prominence and its flexibility. And usually it's quite flexible. After that, I sweep my hands over to the side wall of the pelvis, and I get my bearings that way. And I sweep my hand down and I find the ischial spine. It's not often easy to feel if it's blunt, and as you're learning, the thing you'll find first is that you often make your patient jump just a little bit because of the nerve that attaches from here to the other end at this point of the sacrum, and this comprises the sacrosciatic notch, which should measure 2 to 3 finger breadths at least. After you assess this diameter, I begin to withdraw my hand from the pelvis, and I get a sense of the subpubic angle, which is at least 2 finger breadths, and usually you can spread your fingers a little bit in this region. After that, I withdraw my hand entirely from the pelvis, and I assess the bituberous diameter by putting my fist between the two bones here. So the two measurements of your hand that you're going to need to measure in order to document properly and understand what you're feeling would be from here to here for your diagonal conjugate. Mine is 12.5 centimeters. As you measure, don't push too hard here, or you give yourself an extra centimeter that you don't really have because you don't want to push that hard on a patient. And the other diameter to measure would be the width of your hand. Mine measures 8 centimeters, and between the flesh of a woman's buttocks and the 8 centimeters of my hand, I feel pretty confident that if I can fit my hand in there, that's a 10 centimeter diameter. And lastly, I just wanted to say that sometimes when you're doing pelvimetry, you do find that one angle feels a little smaller than what you have felt on many other women. But with further assessment, more often than not, you will find that there's another diameter that feels relatively long and compensates for that diameter. So I just wanted you to keep that in the back of your mind as you begin learning pelvimetry.